The serviceability of the Saab Sonett was probably like the 27th item on the list of things that Saab wanted out of this car. So, welcome to Duluth Junction Workshop. I'm Tyler and this is Nikki. She hasn't been in videos for a while. My dad and I drove this car over 700 miles last weekend, and I drove it to work 5 days this week. So, wanted to go over a few points on this thing, see what's broken, adjust some things, and take you along for the ride. But first, let's move the cars. First issue we're going to look at here is the Sonett has been dripping fluids here. It's oil. I knew there were oil leaks before I left for the trip, so I actually pulled the valve covers off. I cleaned the gaskets and the mating surfaces, and then I put them back together. So I straightened out the valve cover flanges too, so I actually hammered them down a little bit flat. Seems to help a little bit, and the oil that was over on, say, the exhaust areas has burned off or evaporated or whatever. So that's good, and I feel good about that, but there's still stuff to do. So I think a lot of the oil actually is coming from the oil pan gasket potentially. There's a lot of oil all over the underside of this car, on the engine mounts and also up behind the starter. And I think I just need to pull this whole engine out this winter and reseal the engine. There's not a whole lot I think I can do with this right now, so we're gonna table this for a later discussion. This episode is sponsored by the Japanese Classic Car Coloring Book, illustrated by me, printed in the USA. It has over 20 coloring pages of your favorite Japanese cars from Honda, Toyota, Nissan, Subaru, Suzuki, and more. It's a great gift for artistic youngsters and even adults. LinearDesign.com. The next thing I want to investigate is a little misfire when the engine is cold. Sometimes it misses a couple times, sometimes it sounds like it is running on 3 cylinders for a few seconds, and then I rev it up and it goes out of it. So I'm gonna check the points gap, and we'll just kind of visually inspect everything, make sure it's all still working right. Dad got in here last night with a clutch inspection cover and sprayed a little PB blaster on the input shaft because the clutch was not working. So we also adjusted the clutch linkage. Let's see if it works. It's moving the throw-up bearing? Yeah. Sweet. Well, if you get the clutch working, we might have to drive it. So I don't know if anyone actually cares if the videos are in 4K, so let me know if that's something that you give a crap about. What you want to do is put the scraper from the points on top of one of these cams on the distributor shaft. So I'm going to put the car in 4th gear and push it until it gets there. All you have to do is take this little screw, loosen that up, and I use my Swiss Army knife for that. Then you take the feeler gauge or your other additional feeler gauge, and you can adjust the gap until your feeler gauge goes in and out. You adjust the gap by basically loosening the screw, and then you pull this back and forth and then screw it back in to keep it in place. I threw some Loctite on the screw here because I think that loosened up just slightly on the way up to the UP. So I want that to stay put where it is, and I can deal with it later if I ever need to adjust these again, which on my F100 it's been like 10,000 miles. The last thing is you want to make sure that your distributor cam shaft here is greased up. There's special distributor cam grease you can get. I'm gonna buy some, but for now it's got dielectric that I put on up in the UP. This has some gunk on it, so I just ran the emery board on it, and you can see the difference between the clean part and the dirty part. So I'm just going to clean that up a little bit more, and we'll take a look inside the cap. You can really hear that idle when it's cold. It's not where it should be, and a lot of stuff rattles. Not something I'm gonna deal with right now, but I want to check out the other sound that we're hearing, which is an exhaust leak.
So the clutch is coming off about an 1/8 inch.
Really?
But the one piece is still stuck to the flywheel.
Well, that means I need to do a clutch on this.
Because it's busted apart?
Yeah, it's delaminated. That sucks. Well, it looks like the clutch on mouse is bad, so I'll have to source a new clutch for a 62 Ford F600.
Does that mean we have to drop the training?
Yeah, eventually. Not today. Whoa, that's kind of loose. That shouldn't be loose like that. Maybe that's part of the exhaust leak issue. I guess I'll tighten that up a little bit and see if that solves the exhaust leak. But this one is easier to get to, so I can probably scoot the wrench in. Holy crap. Hey kids, when you are filtering fuel and then you spill some on your hand, make sure you turn the battery off before you swing wrenches next to the starter. Well, I think I found a smoking gun. I'm not gonna say it's not the only smoking gun, but it is one. And I tightened that up as well as I could, burnt my glove down, and we're going to be safer now. Try to start the engine. Did you find a nice place to lay and stay warm? Well, it sounds to me like the exhaust leak has been solved, at least for now. I've already done a lot of exhaust work to this car. I rebuilt an exhaust from scratch, from the Y pipe all the way back, and I got to redo this hanger in a little bit, but I want to talk about some ideas I have for making the exhaust better in general. But the entire exhaust hangs a few inches below the floor pan under the entire car, and that's a big issue when you're out on a rally stage or doing any kind of dirt road driving. And if you have a crown in the road and you cut around a corner, or if you have a little bit of a ditch on the inside and you drop the inside wheel in the ditch, you can grab the gravel really easily with the exhaust. So I need to get that sucked right up under the floorboards, and I have an idea to make it a lot easier. It's really hard to remove right now because everything's slip fit. So if you take the clamp off, the clamp actually has sucked all the pipes together, and it makes it really hard to unslip them. Even if I keep this upper portion, I would like to put a V-band clamp on both sides of this, one on this side and one on the other down pipe, and then that would allow me to drop the entire system from inside the car. Well, you say, well, it's so tight over here, how would you access that? Haha! You can access that exhaust pipe right through the vent. Right through the vent in the wheel well. So all I would have to do is turn that wheel slightly and get a screwdriver in there if I do it right. I found that I can get a mild steel V-band flange set with a stainless clamp. I would be able to weld that at home with a MIG welder, and that would allow me to basically do it at a much lower cost than paying someone else to do it. One thing I noticed is the exhaust runs basically right underneath that rectangular section under the passenger compartment. So if I were to move this pipe over a couple inches on the left, I could pull it up a lot closer to the floorboard and get that out of the way. The point is that I have some ideas to fix this, make it better, and have a more serviceable car out of it, because the serviceability of the Saab Sonett was probably like the 27th item on the list of things that Saab wanted out of this car. So we got to kind of re-engineer things sometimes to make them a little bit easier to work on. Now, we did get the throw-up bearing to move on the input shaft of the transmission on the mouse here, so we're gonna just see what happens, I guess, because it's already ruined. So you know, maybe it'll dig into the flywheel and I'll have to source a new flywheel for a 262, but hopefully not. We're gonna see if it just moves, and that'll make our lives easier for moving it around the yard. Yep. Neutral, battery on, ignition on, start. complain if I drove to work in the salt. Might be a little cold. What? Cold. Yeah, it might be a little cold. No brakes! Ah! Anyway, so we got the exhaust leak figured out and fixed. So let's pull that hanger off the back and raise the rear of the exhaust up as much as we can for now. The way I installed this exhaust is actually a little bit difficult to get to right now. I have in here 4 bolts that come through the floor onto this captive nut panel, and where they come through, I should say where they come from, is the hangers here that I welded together down at the bottom. It's kind of a weird setup, but I'm going to try to fix this because it's really difficult to get these screws in from the bottom. I want to be able to install them one person only and not have to do all that extra work. That pops off. The basic problem is the muffler has an inlet on the side and an outlet in the middle, so it wants to hang sideways. So I need to get something that would hold it equally on both sides of the exhaust pipe. So this is basically just a exhaust clamp, and then I welded the hangers on the side. So I'm going to move this part in the middle upward, and that will allow the pipe to ride higher and closer to the trunk here. Dad's been over here troubleshooting the brights because the brights don't work on the car. What are you doing right now?
I'm putting a tester on the lead and the back of the bright switch.
You want to hit the brights and see what happens?
The brights are on now.
Go back. Yeah, so it looks like the filament's burnt out on this one, but this one's operating properly. If we can get the switch to work, then it looks like we'll have brights, and I can buy a new steel beam.
Right.
Sweet! New and improved exhaust hanger. I think that'll do. I'm getting a little bit better at welding, I think. It's not quite to the booger stage. The exhaust is back on. It's maybe a half-inch higher. Not a huge help, but I can use what I can get. We fixed the exhaust leak. We got the points adjusted, raised the exhaust up a little bit, fixed that hanger so I can put it on by myself. And I think, yeah, we confirmed that the high beams do work if the switch works. And on the side of that, of course, we got the mousolator running, driving with a clutch, which is awesome information, and I'm super excited to start driving that rig. And you had fun today?
I did.
I'm glad that you have fun with this stuff, because Sometimes you do stuff that I really didn't want to. So we got headlight buckets from the junkyard. Got free headlights with them. And then I got a huge kit of hardware from LMC Truck to put in the adjusters and new bolts and all that stuff. Also got bezels from the junkyard so it doesn't look like you ripped its eyelids off. I think we can take the Sonett for a little drive, a celebratory drive after I, you know, put everything back in. Almost doesn't sound like my car anymore, it's so quiet. But I almost forgot to do ignition timing, so let's check that real quick. Oh, she's off. It was a really cool road trip. I'm really glad that this car made it up there, and it just needed a couple little tweaks after the whole drive home, and you know, 700, 800 miles, whatever it ended up being. So thank you for coming along and checking out this little tune-up, and we'll be back with the Sonett and the F600 soon enough. So press on and like, subscribe, tell your friends. 15. Lubricate transmission, clutch, brake, and parking brake linkage, pivots, and clevis. That's a lot of things. Stupid. Oh, 16 is hood hinges. Let's do those right now.